Well, good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing today? Good. Glad for you all to come on our second day of this symposium. Thank you for the Kentucky State University staff for graciously hosting this and allowing us to participate as a partner. And I say a partner because we've been working with KSU for a long time, probably over 10 years now. But we appreciate them inviting us to participate in the symposium. So my name's Eric Muncie. I have Andy Short here. We're going to talk a little bit about drone technology, just the basics, if you will. A lot of who in this room has worked with a drone or owns a drone? So there's several people here. There's a lot of misconceptions out there and things like that, and we'll talk a little bit about that today. So, a little bit too fast there. So a lot of folks don't know who Sieler is. We are a local dealer for different drone technology as well as geospatial technology, from GPS equipment, traditional survey gear, drones, and then some other ancillary products as well. The Sieler company is a family-owned business. We are located in St. Louis, but we actually have two offices here locally, one in Lexington and one from Louisville. And Andy's and my team alone, we probably have about 20, 25 people in that group supporting our Autodesk and drone operations. I'll let Andy take over.
Is this working? Nope. How do you turn that on? So here's our main product offering brands. DJI is obviously a big player, our biggest drone seller. We also have Whisper, which is American made, which we have out there on the table behind you guys. The Wingtra is the big orange fixed wing drone back there. That's made in Zurich, Switzerland. So with the current political climate, and you guys, I'm sure everybody knows about DJI and bans and things like that. We're always looking for American made and other things that we can offer. AVSS is a parachute system that will let you fly over people without waivers. Other things are software. Pix4D is our main photogrammetry and multispectral processing software that we really like. Slide. Oh, I got the clicker. So drones can kind of come in different flavors. Most of what we deal with is the aerial kind. We like flying objects here. We do have a boat that is actually our little remote control boat that'll drive around on the lake and get you some GPS information, and an underwater search and rescue drone as well. Those are a little more specialized, but they are available. So why do we want to use drones? Well, they're lots of fun. We love flying things around, and it looks really cool. And the main reason, though, is it gives us the ability to collect a lot of information in areas that we cannot get to, or areas that we do not want to put ourselves into, or an area that we can't even get other equipment into. So extreme terrain or anything like that. Time and cost savings. We're going to collect a lot of data very quickly. We don't have to have people on the ground. It can also give us views and aspects of objects or things that we just can't get from the ground. So Usually we're doing survey type flight plans for large area photogrammetry, mapping, LiDAR, or agriculture. We'll do that with multispectral. So usually, kind of a large flight plan type survey, or you can use them for inspections, flying around towers or inspecting water tanks or anything like that. Search and rescue is really becoming a big market, with like a thermal camera. We can see people at night or in the woods, or even thermal for wildlife management. We're seeing that a lot more here lately too. So just some basics about getting started in this drone world. When you buy a drone, you need to register it with the FAA if you're going to be using it for any commercial or money-making venture. Anything besides just, I'm going to go fly this around in the backyard and have fun. So really all of us in here would want to register our drone. Anything between half a pound and 55 pounds. So basically anything that we use is kind of in this weight range. We would go to the FAA Drone Zone webpage, pay $5, register your drone, and you get a little certificate, and we put a sticker on the drone with a number on it. Not a big deal. Another thing to think about is insurance. So you have a very expensive piece of equipment flying around through the air. Some kind of insurance is going to be really helpful. It's going to allow you to operate with some of that worry taken off your mind. Am I going to damage it? Am I going to crash it? That's not a place you want to be, is without any kind of insurance and potentially damaging your equipment. So most carriers can add you to a policy like that, or there's some dedicated drone insurance and whole insurance there. Anything to add on that, Eric?
Actually a couple of online or on-demand insurance companies. So if you do not want to have a rider to your policy, you can download an app and actually get a insurance certificate based on the drone, where you're flying at, how long you're flying, things like that, and it will actually give you different options there for you to just click on a button and get an insurance certificate. So there's some options there available too.
And your Part 107 license. I'm sure most people in here are familiar with that. So we were required to have this license from the FAA if we're going to operate our drone in any kind of commercial or business manner. Like you say, their gain is not just dollar signs. It's anything you're doing that's not a hobby, or we're just out messing around having fun. So we go through the process of getting that FAA Part 107 license. You got to be 16 years or older, and it helps if you can read and understand English. 60 multiple choice questions. It takes about 2 hours, $170 to take the test, and these tests are offered at usually flight schools have a testing center. It has to be proctored. So, for instance, you can take it at Bluegrass Field in Lexington, at the flying school there, or at Bowman. And I don't know about the Frankfurt Airport if there's a place that proctors it here nearby, but usually Lexington or Louisville or Mount Sterling. But you want to study for the test as well. So there's all kinds of free study material from the FAA, or you can find an online study curriculum where you can pay a little bit of money and somebody's made a nice, easy to understand study guides for all these things. It's not a difficult test if you're a little familiar with aviation, but some folks aren't. Yes, ma'am.
How often do you repeat the test?
You never have to repeat the test. but you do have to hop on the website and answer a few questions to keep a renewal going on your license. I think that's is it 2 years?
2 years.
Yep, 2 years. Yes, sir.
What if you already have a commercial license, even though my physical is expired? Do I have to still take the 107 test?
You're talking about a commercial
I think with that rating, they'll just give it to you. You don't have to take the test, but you still have to have a 107, but I think they'll just grant it to you. I believe. I'm not for sure on that. I'd have to check.
I think you're grandfathered into that.
Yeah.
What about water? You know, on the surface, you have to have some kind of permit for water, drones?
No, sir. No. Just flying ones.
A quick search of the internet says you do have to take Part 107 even if you have a commercial pilot license.
What was the question?
He just asked a question. If he had a commercial license, does he have to take Part 107? And the answer to Google said yes.
Okay.
You still have to get a Part 107 in addition to your commercial pilot license.
Okay. That's good to know.
Sorry, I thought they would just give it to you. They ought to.
One other thing is the test really is not how to operate the drone per se. It's mainly about weather, air traffic conditions and things like that. So a lot of people have a misconception of that when they go in to take the test unexpectedly and not preparing for that test. So
Yes.
just forethought on that.
Good point. Yep. It's not hands-on. It's airspace. It's reading METARs, TAFs, aviation stuff like that. So. U of E state and local laws. Usually you'll see depicted on maps a circular area in little squares that if there are any restrictions on your flying height, they'll give you an altitude. Usually that's around airports or anything else that the local city or county government deems they don't want people flying drones around. So FAA.gov/UAS can give you a lot of the verbiage on that. A resource that I like to use that I didn't add to the slide deck is FAA.maps.arcgis.com. That gives you an interactive area map of the whole U.S. and every flight restriction is outlined with H altitude in it. So that's something I use all the time. It's really handy. Most airspace restrictions can be waived instantaneously online through the LAANC system, LAANC. But there are some restrictions on there that require you to actually go to the webpage, FAA.com or Drone Zone, and actually start a waiver process. So that's a little more rare, but usually right around an airport.
Wouldn't your drone have to be programmed to enable it to enter a control zone?
That depends on which one you're flying. For instance, a DJI drone, yes, there are geo zones in the drone. So in addition to any FAA waivers, you have to unlock the geo zone with DJI. Our Whisper drone, our Wingtra, those are not geo-locked. I can fly those anywhere I want to at any time. But that doesn't, satisfy an FAA waiver. So it's just DJI that has that system in it. I'm sure a vast majority of the time in any agricultural setting like we are out here, there will never be any airspace restrictions for you. Our two main flavors of aerial drones, multi-rotor, fixed wing. So multi-rotor is really good for typically smaller areas or anything where I need to stop the drone in midair, take any photos or get any sensor data or anything I need from a stationary spot. We can disconnect and connect many different payloads to these. LiDAR, photogrammetry, multispectral, thermal. Some of them can even have more than one on the drone at the same time, like like a thermal camera and a spotlight, or some type of system like that, or a multispectral and a photo payload together, perhaps. Fixed wing really gives us the ability to survey large areas. The drone's going to be flying at much faster, usually at a constant airspeed, like our Wingtra goes 40 miles an hour all the time. But you're not going to be able to stop the drone and hover and look at anything, so you're a little limited there. But certain types of fixed wings would need more area to take off and land. Like Mr. EB up there, you have to launch it, and it's going to have to land. And our Wingtra we really love because it sits straight up and down and just launches straight up, flies the mission, and lands straight down. So we're not constrained by smaller areas with that. The tilt rotor systems there, those are typically, they'll kind of move straight up and down as well. So really with fixed wing, there's kind of if I have an area small enough, I really don't want to use it. So I kind of have a cutoff of an area where I'd rather use my rotor drone, or anything bigger, I could use my fixed wing drone.
Another point with that is most of the spraying drones, and I know we have a presenter talking about spraying drones later, but a lot of the spraying drones out there today are multi-rotor systems. We have never seen a fixed wing.
I have not ever seen
drone.
a fixed wing spray drone.
Because the payload capacity of a fixed wing product is very minimal. So.
Yep. For a spray drone fixed wing, it'd be about as big as an airplane. So, and we already have those. Some flight control options. You can have an RC with thumbsticks where you can manually move the drone around, usually with an integrated screen where it's going to show you a map. Some drones, like our Wingtra, that's totally tablet based. There's no thumbsticks. All the control is on the tablet, and you could, you're just going to fly like semi-autonomous flight plans. So we're going to draw a map area. We're going to have our flight line direction. The drone's going to fly that pattern unless we intercede. With manual thumbsticks flying around, if I let go of the controls, the drone's just going to stop. With an airplane, it's going to keep moving. So usually that's why those are tablet controlled and not thumbstick controlled. That can be very difficult. Anything else on that there, sir?
No, I think you covered it. Yeah.
So the big question, which one's right for you? Your project length, short-term, long-term, project size, what kind of area I need to map really is going to dictate that. Is it something I need to repeat all the time, or is this a large one-off project? The weather we're going to be flying in, and the type of sensors that we want to put on the drone, and the type of data we want to collect. And what kind of what are my conditions at takeoff and landing? What am I limited to? Do I have a lot of towers around? Things like that. We're going to ask ourselves those questions to figure out what best suits our needs. So we want to, as drone pilots and people planning the projects and the missions, I want to know any local, state, federal laws. That's my responsibility first. Make sure we're in the right kind of airspace. We're not breaking any rules. We're not flying anywhere that we shouldn't be. Know the weather. What are my weather conditions? What are my minimums? What can I safely operate this drone in? Like yesterday, we had a lot of fog. We wouldn't want to go flying in the fog. We'd lose that thing. We want to, remember our visual line of sight rules, our altitude rules, Without a waiver, we're limited to 400 AGL or any other lower restriction we see on a map. So, know the capabilities of the UAV. What is this drone capable of doing? Am I going to push it beyond its limits? And last and most importantly, keeping others safe and property undamaged and just being courteous. I find, if I'm flying missions, I try to avoid, even if I'm in my legal right, I want to make sure that that I'm not, being discourteous and flying around people and upsetting folks. I always want to keep that in mind. Anything to add, sir?
A lot of the rules out there that the FAA have in place for us as pilots is attributed to someone being, wanted to play Top Gun and be Maverick out there. So that's why, we really try to educate people on being courteous and being safe out there, because a lot of people think that this is a toy or something like that, but it's another tool in your tool basket, if you will. So we try to educate people as much as we can about the technology. Yeah, it is cool technology, but there is a level of responsibility as a professional in this arena, for sure.
Yep, they're not toys. They're fast-moving, kinetic objects. So, excuse me, future of UAVs and drones. What do we see in the future coming?
So I think if you go to the next slide. So
Yeah.
some of the new technology that we're seeing today is usually like a hybrid drone where you have the luxury of both a multi-rotor system and a fixed wing. We're seeing a lot of push towards that because, in some cases, if you're doing large areas and small areas, it might be beneficial for you to have both a fixed wing product and a multi-rotor system. So having something like a hybrid system would make more sense for you as a business owner, if you will. So we're seeing a lot of interest and push towards companies that will have these hybrid models.
Docking stations. So this would be like drone in a box. This is going to be left on a job site. It's going to be remotely operated from a remote location. We can program the drone to leave the box, fly a certain area, inspect certain things, or even perform area missions. This entails a whole lot more waivers and beyond line of sight activity and waivers that go along with it too. So these are a lot more rare right now, but as technology moves forward, beyond line of sight is going to be more and more common and should be easier to do, we hope. The technology's there, but the regulations are not. So everything we've talked about up until now has just been, everything is within visual line of sight. That's how we operate now. Unless you have a system like this and the waiver structure to go along with it. Anything else about dock?
So these docks we're seeing a lot in construction sites, but we're seeing some interest with farmers wanting to be able to fly their fields once a day, once a week, or something like that. So as long as you have a internet connection and a power source to power the dock, you can set this up anywhere. And with the proper regulations, you could, set this up in Paducah at your farm and be in Frankfurt and actually be able to fly this type of system. So we're seeing a lot of interest and a push for that because a lot of times, people are wanting to fly that area, that farm, that project site, construction site once a day, twice a day, once a week or something like that. Instead of having to drive all the way to Paducah, you can launch this, remotely, operate it, fly, bring it back to the dock, download the data, process it at your office, and have a pretty robust data set, in a couple hours. So we're seeing a lot of interest with that.
Also, we're looking at hybrid propulsion as well. So some fuel cell type technology, hydrogen, PEM cells. There's even gas and electric hybrid drones. Usually anything like that is going to give you much, much longer flight time, a hybrid power system. So if your drone needs to stay in the air for a long period of time, that's going to be a really great way for that to do that. Is that a tether system you have there, Eric?
Yeah.
So that would be like a ground station and a tether going to the drone, so the drone could stay in the air really indefinitely, as long as you're flying over your location. We see that a lot with some law enforcement and folks who need like pop-up monitoring presence or anything like that. Some future payloads. Methane detection is something that we have seen a need for, and there is technology out there for methane detection. Any kind of methane leaks in pipes and the industry there. Water sampling. You could actually have a payload lowered from your drone to dip into your lake, stream, or whatever water source to sample there. Air sampling. Ground penetrating radar, underground location. Oblique imagery. So you can see there with oblique photogrammetry, multi-angle photogrammetry, we can create really spectacular 3D, photorealistic 3D models. You want to talk to some software there?
So we're seeing a lot of interest, and with the computing power that we have today, we're seeing a lot of push towards AI technology, machine learning. So just like our dock example, if you would be able to fly your farm in Paducah, be here in Frankfurt, and be able to download that data and send that information into an artificial intelligence or machine learning program, within a couple minutes you would actually have your analysis done for you, instead of having to sit down or having to have another person sit down in front of a computer and count doing a tree inventory or something like that. You could actually put that data into a computer and be able, within a couple minutes, derive an answer from that. We're seeing a lot of interest towards that. So as what we talked about as far as like different payloads and sensors and things like that, it's just unlimited as far as what you can do with that technology as far as using artificial intelligence and machine learning. So as we go further into this arena, as long as we have people, professionals that understand the answers and things like that and can make these models, if you will, to derive these answers, I think it's going to continue on, and you'll see a lot more of that push towards that machine learning, artificial intelligence.
Some resources. We've talked about FAA.gov, and I would encourage you to check out the map that I told you about as well, the interactive airspace map. The Before You Fly apps will tell you immediately, if you're in an area that you're not supposed to be in. UAVS.org. A good weather source is something that I like as well. So UAV Forecast is a free UAV weather app you can get on your phone. That's going to tell you right away what your conditions are. I use it all the time. Actually, I pay for it, so I think the free version is I think they've kind of limited that, so you might need to buy that, but it's worth it. Any other resources we can add there, sir?
Yeah, you have Kentucky State University. You have a very good research team here. And then us as professionals, resellers, you feel free to reach out to anybody, because we have a vast, knowledge base, if you will. We've been in this world. Personally, I've been in it since 15. So there's a lot of information out there, a lot of misinformation out there. And so you want to go to, people that understand the technology and can provide answers for those questions that you might have.
Okay, we got a few minutes. Any other questions anybody has? Fire away.
I will say, if you have questions throughout the day, if you could just wait on me to get to you, because
Those for the end.
no, we have some time to take a few questions, but just wait on me to get to you for a mic, because we are recording, and hopefully we'll be able to share this information with some other people.
Can property owners decide to not let any drones above their property, like have a, I don't know what you would call it, but
A no-fly zone?
yeah, no-fly zone above their property? Can
No.
So you can fly over any property unless it's near the airport or near a sensitive area?
Yes, sir. A state or local municipality or the FAA can designate no-fly areas, but we cannot as private citizens. We don't own the airspace over the house. Unfortunately, sometimes over the house.
That's a good point. We as professionals, and one of the slides we talk about being courteous.
Yeah.
So we try not to invade other people's privacy, property, whatever. We try to tell people that as much as possible. But you have some
Some people don't.
some people that are mischievous will do that, unfortunately.
A vertical limitation. Surely somebody can't drop down to 6 feet from the ground in your backyard, can they? Legally, or can they?
They can.
You got one.
So, what are some of your limitations involving operations around federal grounds, assuming you have federal clearance with that entity? What would potentially be any hiccups or some roadblocks you would have to work through to do that?
As long as you have contact with that federal controlling authority, they can set any altitude limitations or any restrictions for you. Usually, as long as you're allowed to be there and are talking to the right people, they will dictate how you can operate, and it's usually, not an issue. But we still would obey, unless they give you further clearance to do other things, we would still obey the basic rules of Part 107.
Okay, yeah, because that was the second question I had is, if barring any and all ability to operate, are there any limitations as a contractor or private applicator in that instance, assuming, again, that you have the clearance to do so? Is there any hoops that you have to jump through on your side of the fence?
Not that I'm aware of, nothing additional.
All right, thank you.
One thing to talk about or think about is the drone, because there are, right now there are certain things about, Chinese-made drones and things like that. So, and it just depends on the agency, because I've seen where, as a contractor, you could use like a DJI product in certain instances, but in other instances, you're not allowed to use any Chinese-made drone. Absolutely, whatsoever. If you are a contractor or if you're an employee of that federal area or whatever, state area, you're not allowed to do that. So definitely check with the authorities in that, or the project manager before you start, flying that drone, for sure.
Thank you.
4 minutes if we have one more question. Have one more? Going over here? Okay.
Do you guys tend to get into the realm of the over 55-pound drones at all, like the ag drones or anything like that, and the licensing with FAA for over 55 pounds?
Not yet. We as a company have not. I think there'll be some follow-on presentations that can probably address that with bigger, heavier spray drones and the regulations that go along with that. But we at Sieler have not, no.
Okay. If we could give them a round of applause. Thank you so much, Tyler.